Okay, y'all, we're going to try something a little bit different with the training session that I haven't done before. So hopefully you guys won't notice much of a difference, but I'm going to try to record this. I'm recording the screen and my voice as we go through. So if you guys say something, I'm going to repeat a question. It may sound weird because there's not a remote site or anybody that's listening to us, but y'all will probably not be picked up by the microphone here. As I will, so I'll probably repeat a question if you guys do have questions, okay? So to start with, very first thing, if you guys have not had a chance to take a look at Canvas at all or look at getting into Canvas at all, let's take a look at how to get there. So from the main JDCC website, you go up to JD Tools, and if you go down there, you will see Canvas. It's the second link down on the current website. And if you'll notice at the top, you don't have to go to the website. You can type in the address. It's jdcc.instructure.com. jdcc.instructure.com. So if everyone will go ahead and go to the Canvas login page, and then go ahead and log in for me. And I'm going to log in here, and it uses your standard JDCC username and password, just like you use for your computer, email, etc. And just let me know once you're logged in. Okay. Now the first thing you're going to say is, whoa, this looks a lot different from Blackboard. Doesn't it? It looks a lot different from Blackboard. And I know we've already had somebody, I don't want to change. Yes, I don't want to change, I don't like change. Okay, why are we changing? You guys have heard me say this before, but I won't say it again. It's on record this time, for posterity's sake. Number one, if we do not change, we will pay approximately $40,000 for Blackboard this December. We paid $38 something this past year, and it goes up every year. So we will pay about $40,000 for a year's worth of Blackboard usage. If we do change, which we are changing, we will not pay for Blackboard this December, and when we pay for Canvas this fall, we will pay $6,000. So we're looking at anywhere from $32,000 to $34,000 in annual savings. Now, where does that money come from? Does anybody have any idea? It does not come out of my budget. I do not pay for Blackboard. That comes out of your division's budgets. So guess what? Are there 4 divisions? Is that right? I think there are 4 divisions, which is $8,000 per division that just got back into your individual division's budgets. Now, I don't know if Bernie will take it away from you. You know, I can't tell you that. If he'll just say, nope, sorry, you can't. But there's a possibility that you guys could see $8,000 additional dollars in your division because of this change. The other thing is, Blackboard is continually changing the requirements that's necessary to run Blackboard, and we run Blackboard on campus. Canvas is run in the cloud, so we don't have to worry about the requirements. They take care of those requirements. They're all hosted on their servers. So we have to worry about all those requirements here. And Blackboard is continually changing those requirements and upgrading those requirements. And right now, we have not changed our Blackboard version for about a year and a half because of the requirements needed to change. We don't have the funds to be able to change and purchase the additional licensing of other software other than Blackboard in order to do our Blackboard upgrade. And I honestly don't have the time to learn the brand new other software that we've got to now learn in order to run Blackboard that runs it underneath. It's a back-end product that runs Blackboard. It's really crazy what they're doing. And their entire user interface has changed. Do you remember how we did when we changed from Blackboard 8 to Blackboard 9? How much of a change there was? There's an even more drastic change going from Blackboard 9.1 release 4 to 9.1 release 7, I think it is. So even just sub-releases within a sub-release, which is crazy if you guys know anything about development. You don't change anything in a sub-release at all, much less a sub-release of a sub-release. That stuff is changing like crazy, and it's even more changed differently inside just up to the current version of Blackboard. So there'd be relearning regardless as to what you do. The other thing is, how many of you guys had problems with Blackboard and we've never been able to get them fixed? Nobody in this room? I can tell you there have been plenty of instructors that have had lots and lots of problems here with Blackboard, and we have not been able to get them corrected. Blackboard will not fix them. There have been specific issues that we've had tickets open with them for literally 3 years, and we have not been able to get them to address them. Oh yes, we'll forward that over to the programmers. We'll forward that over to the programmers. You talk to other schools in the state, and they're all having the exact same issue, and nobody will fix it. They will not address it. So when we move over to Canvas, we have already seen, just during our pilot period with our first group of instructors that started at the start of spring term in Canvas, we've already seen issues that they have had, and they're going to be issues regardless of what system you use. I'm not going to tell you that Canvas is going to be issue-free because that's not going to be true. So but the good thing is, when you go into Canvas, when I open a ticket with Canvas, so far, we have seen our issues solved within an average of 2 to 3 days. The longest one has been a 5-day resolution time. That was over a weekend. That's including the weekend days. So far, they have been fixing problems, and it's not, oh, you have to wait till the next patch that comes out in 6 months before it's fixed. It's fixed when they tell you it's fixed, and it's live on the system. So like I said, so far, their support has been much more responsive than anything that Blackboard's ever given us. Plus, I mean, the cost is just ridiculous. So I can't see any reason that we wouldn't do it. Some of the benefits that you'll see, once we get our backup internet working over in Atmore, which we will have before the end of summer term, even if we lose our main internet connection, you'll still have connection to the internet through our backup in Atmore, unless some horribly drastic fiber cut somewhere happens that takes all of Mediacom's internet down everywhere. If we lose internet right now, nobody from the outside world can get to Blackboard. So students can't get to it, etc., etc. And that could be a power outage here on campus, and a generator failure or something like that, or it could be a fiber cut somewhere. Any number of things could take that access down. With Canvas, it's hosted in the cloud, so they can still get to it off campus regardless, no matter what happens to us. And if our backup connection gets back up in Atmore, if we get that functional, then we'll have connectivity through the internet, even if access here is down. Like if our building was without power for some reason over there in the ATN, and our generator died, Lord forbid, all at the same time, then you would still be able to have access back through Atmore if you were on the Atmore campus. Now, if there's no internet access here, there's no phones, nothing if the ATN's dead. I can't help that for this campus. But Atmore would still be able to go out through the backup access and still get internet access and still have access to cams, etc. So we'll do the best we can to make sure you still have access to the internet. Of course, obviously, we need that for email as well, because email is hosted in the cloud. Now, specifically talking about Canvas, you guys are logged in, you're looking at the main screen. They have really done a good job with this, and they listen to feedback. So I would highly encourage you, if you have ideas or whatever, participate in some of the Canvas communities, and we'll talk about that more in our second session about how you guys can participate in that and give suggestions to Canvas on minor changes they can make. It used to be like, see, I've got assignment notifications. They used to list each one separately, like that. And so you come in here, and maybe you had, if you're an instructor, you may have all kinds of stuff, and you may have a screen that, if you printed it out, would be like 15 pages long. So it would be all like that. But now what they do is they group them, and so they're grouped, and you can see it's much cleaner looking, and it makes it a lot easier to see. Maybe you've got a lot of students taking tests, and it's notifying you they're being taken, or et cetera, all kinds of different things. So they'll stack it up, and it's a lot like what you saw on the first page of Blackboard when you had notifications on that first page. This is the same kind of information that's going to come across here. A student's taking a test, or in this case, I've changed an assignment. I've made some different changes to the things. You can see the dates and the times that those things were done. And it'll be more than just that. You'll see all different kinds of things that come up there. So it's just, and it runs across all of your courses, not one specific course. But you can tell which course it's for. In this case, it's for my test course 1. And just like in Blackboard, you will have 2 test courses in Canvas that you can play with. So feel free to do that. Your list of courses is not on one side over there like it was before. Now it's underneath this little drop-down menu called My Courses. So if you see that, the first thing you're going to think is, oh, well, this could get kind of long. You may have fall and spring courses. I think I deleted fall stuff. Did you guys have fall? Good. I thought I deleted the fall courses because nobody used it for fall term. I was just testing with fall. So if you got spring courses, etc., in there, this list can get kind of long, and we'll do our best to do completed courses and stuff like that for you so that stuff moves out of the way. But if for whatever reason you don't want to see a certain course, maybe you don't do anything with a course except post a syllabus on it, and you don't ever need to go back into it on Canvas again, you don't care. Or you've got something in this list that you want to just get rid of. You can see this little customize link that's up there. You click that customize link, and you can just uncheck those courses. And yep. Heather just asked if you uncheck these, would they be able to be brought back? I'll uncheck 3 here. I'll come out of the courses menu. I'm going to come back into the courses menu. There's only 2 courses listed now. If I go to Customize, there are my other courses. I can check and bring them back. So you can very easily customize what that list is. The assignments is a listing of assignments across all courses that are open or due in the near future. Open now or due in the near future. So if you go to assignments, which you guys probably don't have any assignments in your courses right now, I would assume, you can see these are assignments that I have either open or near due in some of the courses that I've been playing with and working with. If you only want to see it for a specific course, you can come over here to the right and click on that one specific course, and it actually takes you into the course, into that course's assignments page. Grades is going to take you into different things. You can see courses I'm taking, courses I'm teaching. So if you are actually enrolled in the class, which all of you should be enrolled in at least one of our courses, Canvas Training for Instructors, and you go in there and you take some of our quizzes and whatnot, if you go into their courses I'm taking, you should be able to go in there and see the different assignments that are there and how many points they're worth, etc., etc. And your students can do the same thing. When they click on grades, they're just going to see the different courses they're in and click on it, and they'll be able to see the different assignments you've created for them, etc. Now, if you're teaching an online course, you'll probably already have all that stuff created. If you're teaching a traditional course, you probably will not have all of that information in there right now, especially in Blackboard. Here's a catch, and here's one thing you need to pay attention to. The JD Gradebook will go away by December. It's going to go bye-bye. So if you're using that, it will go bye-bye. Yes, ma'am, it will. We're going to move everything over into Canvas. So the Canvas Gradebook actually will work really, really well. We've already been doing quite a bit of testing with it, and it does all the different bits and pieces. It does drops and all the double drops and drops only in one group or not in another group. All those different bits and pieces that didn't let us move away from it previously into the Blackboard Gradebook, the Blackboard Gradebook would not do, the Canvas Gradebook does. Now, if something drastic comes up and we do find a major flaw, the JD Gradebook may stay around for a little while for one or two people to use. But for the majority of people, the JD Gradebook is going to be gone at the end of December. So this will be something that you want to look at, because students are going to expect to see grade output in here. And you'll see when I show you how to get some additional training material, because I'm not going to go into a lot of that during our first session. You can go, there's a 20-minute video you can go in and watch, and I think you saw a little bit of it when you came in early. I was watching it just to make sure I got through the correct material in the correct order. In that video, I very briefly show you what the gradebook looks like to a student, and they can play with the grades. That you've already created all the assignments, and they can say, well, what if I make 100 on the final? What if I make this? What if I make that? You know, they can put in their own grades, and it'll calculate the average based on how you have the gradebook set up. So they can do their own what-if scenarios, and that's really nice for them. And it doesn't affect the actual grades that are stored, obviously. It doesn't affect the actual average, but it allows them to do that, and you don't have to sit down and calculate all that mess for them. So they can go in there and play with it and figure out what they need to make on the next quiz to be able to bring their average up to whatever it is their target goal is. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. The only thing I use JD Gradebook for is when I have to withdraw students.
The reporting functions will stay. Yes, ma'am. The reporting functions of the JD Gradebook will stay. It's just the gradebook functions that will go away. So if you've got courses that you're teaching, if you look at the courses that you're teaching and you click on a course, I'm going to go into the Canvas Training for Instructors. Basically, it just takes you into that the gradebook for that specific class. It would be the same thing as if you'd gone into the course and clicked on the grades link, and you can see the gradebook that's here. And it's very similar to what you're probably used to already. When you're looking at Blackboard, you've got the columns and you've got the students at the left. Now, we're not going to talk about the gradebook too much today. I don't want you guys can go home and play with it some, and we'll get questions from you before we have our second session, so I can make sure we get all those answers and we can answer those in the second session. But I just want you to see that's where the gradebook is, and that's how you get to it. Now let's start looking at a course specifically individually. So let's go to the courses link and pick a course specifically. Now, I'm going to pick my Canvas Training for Instructors course, and you guys are all enrolled in that, so at any point in time you can go in there and play with the materials that are there. So did everybody open up a course? Don't have one open? Okay, over on the left-hand side, you probably don't see quite what I see, do you? You've got a lot more items that are in bold or darker. That means they're available. If they're bold or dark, that means they're available. And if they're light or grayed out, that means they're not available. So students wouldn't be able to see them. What we decided to do as we worked with the pilot group, you know how we did it when we first started Blackboard? We said we're going to have certain menu items at the left-hand side so the navigation is always the same for the students. The more we can make the same for the students, the more they focus on the material and the less they focus on how do I get around inside this system. So we really want them to focus on the material. So we decided to make the navigation, the basic navigation, the same. Obviously, once you get past the initial menu items, the navigation and the layout and the setup is up to the instructor. But the basic navigation needs to be the same. We're only going to use these top 4 menu items. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Well, what about quizzes, conferences, outcomes, pages? I want to use those things. You still can. That's not a problem. They just don't appear as individual items on the left-hand side. Announcements is very good because students, when they go to the page, they want one button they can click on to get announcements. We actually polled several students when we were going through this process as well. Grades, they want to be able to get a one-click grade and see where their grades are. People, they need to be able to find people to contact. So if they want to contact you as an instructor, we don't have to maintain a Contact Us page or anything like that. When you come in here, you will see the individual instructors. If you click the instructor's name after you click people, you've got information here such as send a message. I'm an admin, so I've got analytics and all kinds of other things up here. But they've got send a message, and they've got your email address, etc., etc. So they've got contact information very, very quickly available. Where the real thing starts for the students, where the course actually starts, these others are informational pieces. The course actually happens underneath modules. This is kind of like in Blackboard we had course materials. This is our course materials and our assignments, etc., etc., all rolled into one piece. And to me this makes a whole lot more sense because one of the biggest complaints I had about Blackboard was different instructors would put assignments in different places. I don't know where to get my stuff. Everything I've seen says starting course materials. I go in there, I don't see any assignments in there. I have to go underneath assignments to get assignments. Why is stuff underneath assignments when we say it's underneath course materials? Because we left the instructors the freedom to put stuff underneath assignments or course materials. Well, in this, we're not going to do that anymore. There's no real need to. Because underneath modules, you go in and you create a module, maybe Chapter 1. And underneath Chapter 1, you put materials of whatever kind it may be that you have. Maybe it's links to web pages. Maybe it's actual text that you type in, pictures, etc. that you build, like a little web page that you build. Maybe it's discussion boards, etc., etc. And then maybe the last thing is the actual test if it's an online course. Maybe it's a quiz, an online quiz to prep the students before they go into a regular traditional test. Because remember, just because you're teaching a traditional class does not mean you cannot provide online support materials to your students. So if your book comes with some sort of support materials that we can import into Canvas, let's import them into Canvas and make them available to your students. The more tools they have available, the better they're going to learn. Even if they don't ever use them, at least we can say we try. By breaking it up by modules, it allows the students a progression, and it's all on one page, and they go from top to the bottom of the page. And it will tell them what they've been able to see. And that's kind of the big change between Canvas and Blackboard, is everything comes underneath modules, including the syllabus. So if all you have is a syllabus, you would add a module, call it syllabus, and then I'll show you guys how to do this in just a minute, but you would add a module, call it syllabus, and you would add an item to that module, a file, and just upload your Word document in it, and that would, if all you're going to have is a syllabus, that's all you'd have to do. Does that make sense? Okay, so now let me actually show you in one of my test courses adding the modules, if you guys haven't already played with this. So I go into the modules area, and I've already got some chapter 1, 2, 3 stuff in here, but let's say I'm going to add chapter 0. So I click on add a new module, and it doesn't have to be done by chapters. It may be week 1, week 2, I mean however you want to logically, you already have a way you break up your class, everybody does, and so however you logically break up your class. Chapter 0. And we won't even look at the other items yet, let's just add the module. Now note, where did it add it? It added it at the very bottom of the page. If you look at the left-hand side next to the name, if you put your mouse over top of that, if you'll note how that turns into a drag drop, it's like 4 arrows pointing in all directions. If you click on that, I can now drag that around very easily, and it'll move it around. I can just drag it up top because I want that to be the very first one. If I'm going to add something to this module, see I've got hide module contents or add item to module, I'm just going to click the Add Item to Module link. And this is where I decide what goes in this module. And like I said, you can add any different kinds of content inside this module. Think of this like you're an instructional designer or like you're putting together your class on your syllabus. How is your course structured and how you want it to work? Add, what do I want to add? How do I add an assignment? Am I adding a quiz? Am I adding a link to a file? If it's just a single file, you can just use that. And by adding a content page, and a content page may be where you put, if you record a YouTube video, you'd add a content page, and we'll get to that in just a minute, and you would put your YouTube videos in there, or if you either, just maybe you found a YouTube video out there that you want to use and you want to put in there. Any different things like that. You've got your discussions, so you can have your discussion boards there. If you want to do a little bit more fancy arrangement, you've got the text header, which would be a more broken piece. So it's just a text decoration within the modules, so it would look like a divider to the students. And you've got an external URL, so if that's to another website, maybe you want to require them to go to this one specific website, maybe a psychology website or something, to look at an APA format or whatnot. You can require them to do that. Don't worry about the external tool stuff. We're not using the external tools right now. So let's start off with the file. And we say, okay, we're going to add a file to it. Well, this is where Canvas, again, has an advantage over Blackboard. In Blackboard, when you went to add a file to something, you added it, and if you added the file twice, what did you have? You had two files in the same course, but even if they were the exact same thing, it was two copies of the same file, one with a 1 at the end of it and one without a 1 at the end of it, right? It added a 1 automatically for you. With this, look here. These are the files that are already in the course, or you scroll to the very bottom, click New File. So now I can add a new file and upload one from my computer, or I can pick an existing file. So I'm going to pick an existing file in this case. The indentation thing, that's just strictly a looks thing. That's how far over it kicks it from the left. I personally, as you guys will hear, I like to indent everything 2 spaces. I just kind of like it over a little bit further. That's just personal preference. So there it is. It says shooksexemptionletter.pdf. Well, if you're satisfied with that, that's all. I mean, you can click on that and it's going to take the student over. They don't even have to download the darn thing. It's going to open it up in real time right here on the page. Even if they don't have Adobe Acrobat installed on their computer, it's going to open it up in real time and they'll be able to see the thing. Or if they do want to download it, they can click the download link at the top. Now, let's say you don't like that name because maybe that's not, you know how it is. You name a file something, and that's not what you want the students to see. I mean, you don't mind if they see it, but they may not understand what it really is. So we can change that with the little pencil. So we edit the item details, and all that is just a rename and to change it. So we can say this is a example exemption letter. If I could spell exemption, it would help. And now that's a little bit more user-friendly. Make sense? Now let's add another item. I come back down to my Add Item to Module, and let's add a content page. And again, I have existing content pages. I have a Chapter 1 materials page, or I can add a new page. So you can always reuse the stuff you've already done within this course. And I'm going to indent this 2 levels because I like to have it indented 2 levels. Oh, failed to create new item. I'm going to have to cancel out and go back in. Oh, page name. I can't see. My screen's turned on me. Page name, Chapter 0 materials. If I don't give it a name, it won't create anything. So there's my Chapters Material 0 page. When I click on that, it's going to bring me to a blank page. Now this is your content page, and this is where if you've got a lot of neat stuff you want to tell your students that's custom content that you want to write for your students, you want to give your students information, this is where you can really shine as an instructor. You go into edit this page, and this is where you have full access to be able to type anything that you'd like to be able to type. And you can add images. There's a little embed image right there. So you can also search images on Creative Commons on Flickr. So if you go here and you're looking for an image of a whale, this will go into Flickr and images that you are allowed by license to be able to use. You can find a picture of a whale and insert that directly into your page. And oh, that's a little bit too large, so I can click on that image and use the handles, scale it down, and keep typing. And of course, you've got all the standard type things. You've got, your links, your hyperlinks, etc., in the tools up top. So if you're used to using those will be used just like you have always used. Maybe you want to insert a YouTube video. We search Harlem Shake on YouTube, and there's a Harlem Shake video. So we've just now embedded a Harlem Shake video in here, just that fast. So we go down a couple of more areas, and if you have this is one of the features that I really like about Canvas right here, and this is available not only just in Canvas, but also in announcements, discussions, basically anywhere you've got a content area within Canvas you can do this. I can't do it right now because the camera and everything's being used to record this lecture right now, but I hit, it's that looks like a little piece of movie right there, and it pops this up. And, well, there we go. It is going to use the camera because the camera's not being used. So I could come in here very, very quickly, hit record either audio only or audio and video. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both. And then post that directly into my Canvas course and have that available to my students. And it will send them an email with a link. They log right back in. They've got access to it within Canvas. Or if I've got a video on my computer that I've already recorded, I can upload that, either an audio or a video file, either way. So you can upload stuff if you've already got things recorded. You can do that and upload those as well.
Do you record it with an iPhone?
Yes. So you can add that information. Now this is something, there's what they call resource libraries, and there is so much stuff in here, guys. I really encourage you just get in here and play with some things, because there's so many different bits and pieces that are in here that y'all can take a look at. Again, I'm not an instructor, so I haven't looked at a whole lot of this stuff, but there's enormous amounts of things that I think probably would be, there's flashcard apps that you can put in here, all kinds of different things. Now, we've got 2 math instructors in the room with us right now. Insert math equation. 3. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. 3. So now again, I'm not familiar with this tool, but there's tons of different bits and pieces in here, so you can see the different items that you can use. If you guys can see those on the screen, that'll allow you to build equations. That give you any bit of excitement at all, or you guys prefer my math lab still? I'm sure my math lab's better, but it could be interesting. So you can at least have it gives you the correct font, so we can actually put the items in there if you decided to use something like this. So, and again, you've got all the indentions, etc., all the standard formatting tools, bold, underline, etc. From here, you've got an option to hide this page from students, which is something you probably don't want to do. Matter of fact, I would tell you at this point, the way we're doing it, since we're using modules, you probably never want to check hide this page from students, because the only way they're going to get to it is if they go to modules. So I would never say hide this page from students. And then if you were really kind of adventurous and you wanted to do group projects and have your students work on items in class, and Heather, you might have some application for this in some of your classes, you could create a page, an empty page, maybe with just one line of instruction, and tell your students that they have to work together to build something. And you can go down and say teachers and students can edit this page. And then they would have to work together to type and write and pull YouTube links in and pictures, etc., to build a page of information that they might be able to use. So that could be very interesting. And of course, the good news is if you do use that, you can tell which student did what. So you'll be able to tell specifically and do a little quick replay. You'll know who did how much of what in the page. If somebody decides to go in and blast everything out, you'll know exactly who did it, etc., etc. So the tracking is really very good. You have an option to notify users that content has changed. So if I click that and click Save Changes, anybody that's enrolled in the course will get an email that will tell them that this page has been updated. So if you see a typo that you think your students need to know about, make sure you check that. If you don't think you ever want them to know that you accidentally made a typo, don't check that.
Question. So when you're in, like, if I'm doing the content page and I want to put some PowerPoint slides, tell me again how I'm supposed to do that. Just add it to the module.
If you're doing a PowerPoint slide, you'll probably want to add it as a file. Do you need other content other than the PowerPoint?
No.
Okay, I would upload the PowerPoint as a file,
Oh.
and then it will come up as a PowerPoint display.
Okay. All right.
So you can see here, I just did a really super basic page here, and if I click play on the YouTube video,
That is one of possibly the strangest.
it plays right on the page. We don't have to go over to YouTube,
The Harlem Shake is taking over.
and it just works. So again, it's a very, very simple thing. Now I'm going to go back to modules, and again, as I mentioned before, you guys, we can add all kinds of different things, and I would encourage you to play with this and determine, how this would be best used for your course. Now, before we go any further, let me tell you this: we will. How many of you guys have nothing in Blackboard that you want to keep? I was going to.
Change about every semester.
Yep. So everybody has stuff in Blackboard that they would like to keep. Okay. We will be migrating your information from Blackboard over into Canvas for you, and whenever you migrate over, everything that was underneath content materials, etc., will be put underneath course modules. And so what we will try to do is take out anything that's ancillary and doesn't really need to be there, and then we'll try to discuss with you, ways that we might be able to help you do some really quick organization. And then, of course, we'll have to leave it up to you to do the fine organization once we get everything migrated over. But we will try to help. We will move everything over, make sure that it all works, and then hopefully help you guys with the most basic parts of the organization. And then if you have any issues with the finer parts of it, we can help you with that too. Does that make sense? As far as I'm aware, there's no cost available. If you get into it and it tells you can't, then maybe there's a cost available to it. I haven't gone through a lot of the stuff. I've only done one or two, and it didn't. There was no cost associated with it. It just allowed me to search within it and pull items out. So just play with it and see what you come up with.
The copyright and all that.
It should be fine.
Okay.
That's how they're made available through to Canvas. That's correct. That was a question concerning the extra pieces in the resource library as to whether or not there will be issues with copyright or cost or anything like that. And as far as we know, there are not. Thank you very much. So, those are the different, again, you can add all these different bits and pieces in here and be able to pull them in. Now, once you've added everything in here, including assignments, etc., which again, we're not going to go over the assignments and quizzes yet. Once you've added everything in here, you can do things to your modules. And this is where I like what Canvas can do. Did any of y'all take Mary Beth's selective release course that she did a while back for Blackboard? Basically, so what selective release in Blackboard does, it's really complicated and it's really easy to break. But what it does, it's a good idea. What it does, it allows you to only allow pieces to come out. Like a student has to complete this before they can move on to this. They have to complete this before they can move on to that. And maybe they have to make a certain score on a quiz or something like that before they can move forward, or they at least have to open up the syllabus before they can go take a test. We can turn that kind of stuff on. So if you look within a module, we'll start with Chapter 0. We can lock the module until a given date so that they can't get into it until a specific date at all. We can add prerequisites, meaning they must complete. In other words, they must complete modules previous to this one before they can get into this module. And we can define what it means for this module to be complete. So let's see what that means. We had our example exemption letter, which was a PDF. The only option for that is to view the item. So if we add that, they have to open that up. And they don't have to read it. We can't tell whether or not they read it. But they at least have to open it up at this point before Chapter 0 module would be considered complete. And we've got Chapter 0 materials. They must contribute to the page. They can put within that page, there's an option for you to allow, and I think it's on by default, to allow comments to a specific content page. And I believe it's on by default. So if you leave it, if you turn this on and they say they have to contribute to the page, please make sure you put instructions on that page that say they have to comment on it. But then they can go in and they can comment. And what could be neat here, and I know it doesn't work so much for math, but it might work for some of you other guys, is the students you can go in and create a page and say, blah blah blah. Here's a case study on such and such. And what I want you to do is record a video or audio response. And they go back in, and when they go back to do their comment, they've got all the same record and edit tools that you have. So they can go and pull a YouTube video in, etc., through a comment, with leaving your initial page completely by itself, or they can hit that little, looks like a piece of film, and they can record their own comment and send that back through the course, so that you can get audio and video feedback directly from the students. And then lastly, down here we've got students must move through the requirements in this module in sequential order. And that means they've got to go from top to bottom within the module. That means they can't just jump around within the module. And that can be very useful if the very last item in the module is a quiz, and you want them to get to that only after they've gone through the other material. Make sense? Okay, now here's Chapter 1, and how we talked about prerequisites. Chapter 0. They have to complete Chapter 0 before they can move on. And we know what it takes to complete Chapter 0 because we define that. And it tells you, must view the page, must contribute to the content. And if we look at this guy, it'll tell us, must complete Chapter 0. Now we've set just a very few little prerequisites and requirements, very few little things. How do we test this? How do we test anything in Canvas? How do we test it in Blackboard? Oh, come on. You use it, but how do you use it? Log in as a student user. And in Blackboard, we gave you a student user. First name dot last name dot student. Remember? So that you could log into your course as a student. Okay. This is the first time some of you guys have heard this, huh? At least it's the first time you remember hearing it now, because I know I've said it quite a few times. Okay. Yeah, so if you don't know, you can go right back to your office right now and log in as firstname.lastname.student, and you are a student enrolled in your courses, in every course that you're teaching, including your test courses. In Canvas, we don't even have to bother with that. Canvas gave us a really nice tool for you to be able to be a student and see what it looks like to a student that's enrolled in the course. So you go over to settings, and we'll get more into settings in a minute, but to test as a student, you go over to settings, and there's a button right at the top of the right-hand side, and you'll see Canvas does a lot of things the same. They put stuff in the middle, and they put a lot of buttons on the right-hand side. So you'll get used to that. And it's called Student View. So you go into the course, you go to Settings, and then you go to Student View. And that's how you log in as a student. And Student View on the right-hand side. So now I click Student View, and this is what you see. I just started in this course like I just clicked into it. So what would I do as a student? I would go to modules, because that's what I'm supposed to do. And I would see the modules, and I would see them in order. And now look what I can see as a student. Example exemption letter, must view the page. Chapter 0 materials, must contribute to the content of the page. Chapter 1, look at the bottom. Prerequisites, Chapter 0. It gives them all the information that they need. Now whether or not they're going to read it or not, that's a different story. We know that. But they've got all the information they need. So if I come here to example exemption letter, and I take a look at it, it'll load it up here in a second. There's a nice little thing that Canvas does when you're in your modules, and this does it even when you're as an instructor, but I just didn't show it to you before because we were moving on. Look down at the bottom of the module. Do you guys see that next button? That's because I put them in order. So if they look at the first thing, they don't have to go back to modules to get to the second thing. They can click next, and it takes them over to the next page. And then they can click next, and it takes them on to the next page. And they can click next, and it takes them on to the next page. And so it'll keep going through the course until they reach a point where you've not allowed them to continue to go through. They can go back to the modules for the overview, or they can see full course sequence, which is like clicking on modules, same thing. And now you can see, check, they viewed the page, yet they did not complete.
It says in progress. You see it?
Mm-hmm. In progress, so the students know they're in progress. This is still locked, so they can't get in. So why did we not? We can't get to Okay, let's go chapter 0. I thought we clicked next, didn't we? Did we not read? No, we did not.
Yeah, we gotta go to the.
Pay attention here, because this I was going to see if anybody saw it. Look, this file is part of the chapter 1 module and hasn't been unlocked yet. Completion prerequisites. Chapter 0 materials must contribute to the page. It tells them what they have to do before they can move forward. And it gives them a link. The following requirements must be completed before this page will be unlocked. So we go back to chapter 0. It must not have been opened about it. So we did not give them a means to contribute to the page.
How do you do that?
We'll go back in and edit it in just a moment. I'm still in as a student, though. So if I want to go back to an instructor, notice as a student over here, all I've got is these first items. I don't have any of the rest of the stuff as I did as an instructor. All they see is what you allow them to see. So if I'm done as a student, and you can tell that I'm a student because I've got this big blue Leave Student view down here, and I've got As Test Student up here at the top. And I'm not seeing all my extra stuff. So there are many different ways you can tell you're in as a student. I can click Leave Student View. If I've gone in and I've tested, maybe you only allow one attempt for a test, and you want to reset that so that you can go back in and take it again fresh. You can reset the student as a whole by clicking Reset Student, and it'll wipe it out like that student's never logged into the course again. So you can start like you're a fresh student just getting into the course and go through. We're not going to do that right now. I'm just going to click Leave Student View. And so we want to make this so that the student can edit and contribute to the page. So we'll go to Edit the Page. Teachers and students can edit the page. Right? Because if they can't edit the page, they can't contribute to it. Now, what we can do, go back to Student View, go to Modules, and let's see if we can go to Chapter 0 Materials. We haven't edited the page. I edited it. Save changes. Next for Chapter 1. Voila! Now I'm in Chapter 1 because I was able to go in and contribute to the page. Now, there's not too many times when you guys are probably going to use contribute to the page. Again, that's probably going to be a very rare thing. Most of the time, you're probably going to use view the page because we could have changed that from contribute to just view, so they have to open it up and look at it, at least.
Discussion? Yeah, discussion.
Oh, yes. You want to take a look at the discussions real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, let's come back out of Student View. Matter of fact, let me actually show you a... Let's see, I think History 101 may have some active discussions in it, but I'm not sure. Well, let's see. Let's go down to discussions. There's one that had some in it. So you can see how they indent. So you can see who replies to who, even within the same thread. And as an instructor, you can go through modules, and you can go to the discussions here for that specific area, or you can go to the discussions link and see all of them in one place, if you want to. The students will have to go through the modules, because you don't allow them to see the discussions area. So does it make sense, y'all? The basics on how to build a module and how to add items to it, and the basics on the content page, and arranging some of this stuff within inside the module. Remember how we could move the modules around by using the little drag and reorder icon? We can do the same thing inside the module. We can move these around inside the module. So we can move those items very easily and drag them around. So that's very easy. And of course, like I said before, inside the module itself, you can set prerequisites for the module, and you can set what it means to complete the module. Questions? Alrighty.
I have some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
If it change the grades, can Canvas like pull grades from a different website? Like if I wanted to pull my MyMathLab grades, can I do that?
If the MyMathLab has an export in a format that Canvas can understand,
Okay.
then you should be able to do an import. Now, it's something that I haven't messed with at all. But it's something you can definitely give a shot and you can play with. You can use one of your test courses and just try it and see. Yes, Loletta was asking about taking grades from another website like My Math Lab and doing export from My Math Lab and then importing them into Canvas. And that may be possible. I know Canvas does have a grade import functionality. So as long as it's in the correct format for Canvas, and Canvas accepts several different formats, there should be a way to be able to do that. And maybe you can download them and then do a manipulation routine on those to get them into the correct format and then upload them. Probably be a lot easier than recreating them from scratch too.
Question, we need the ability to sign up for testing. How do we do that on campus?
The sign up for testing, that's available through the calendar, and I'll get with you guys about that after we finish with this, because that's very specific to y'all. But yes, it does exist.
And surveys as well.
Surveys, whenever you go to create an assignment or a quiz, it's a quiz, you just choose survey instead of quiz. So that's there. Yes, ma'am.
One place where I'm a little bit lost,
Mhm.
there's probably a lot of places, but I have, like, I'm in a course,
Yes, ma'am.
and I've created an assignment, and let's just say I want to upload some notes or a document. We haven't been told how to do that yet. Or do we know how to do that? Because like I've got the name of the assignment, but now I want to upload some questions or.
Well, it depends on what you're doing. We haven't gotten to assignments and quizzes yet, no.
Okay.
So we will be covering that. Yes, ma'am.
I just wondered if I missed something.
You said the survey is available on the assignment?
I think it's quizzes, actually. When you create a quiz, if you go create new quiz, it gives you an option to do quiz, graded survey or ungraded survey, or practice quiz. It gives you 4 options. You go to quiz, create quiz, and then at the top right you can see there, you'll see graded survey or ungraded survey.
Now, with Blackboard, because we had our survey attached to all the students that were in 091, 098, 112, so they all get it and they compile the data together. So would each instructor have to do their own survey, or can we just do?
It depends on how you want it set up.
I want to be set up, just do it all at once.
Right, and we'll get to that, because there are some interesting things that Canvas can do outside of what you guys are doing, and in addition to what you guys are doing. Plus, it can do what you're already doing in Blackboard as well.
Okay.
So there are some neat things that we'll look at. But again, some of those are specific to you guys, and some of those are not really meant for the intro class. They're really for the second class.
Okay.
I'll touch on them right at the end, just really briefly, but I don't want to throw too much out at once.
I don't want to throw off your lecture.
Oh no, you're just fine. You're just fine. Not a problem at all. All right, so now let's talk about getting our menu in order, because this is very, very, very important. Now we'll probably handle this for you guys during the conversion process, and if you're using the same course, if you're just copying it from term to term, that'll already be set up. But if it's not done, you really, really, really do need to make sure this is taken care of each term, and it's a really, really simple thing to do. When you go into a course, if it's not one that we've worked with or that you've worked with before and already set it up, you're going to see, let me see, my course 2 might be like this. Yeah, my course 2 is like this. The publishing piece, if you see that, you can ignore that. We're going to handle the publishing through our automated system for you for summer term, so don't worry about that. But if you do see that down there at the bottom, feel free, if you'd like to go ahead and click on Publish Course. Now, the question was, I clicked Publish Course, it didn't do anything. Well, when you put your mouse over top of Publish Course, you have to go over to the right and actually click that Publish Course. So you put your mouse over top of the Publish Course at the bottom and then click the button at the right. And what that does, that makes your page available. That was one of the things that's a little bit different between the two, but Canvas has given us the capability to make your course available to students. Before, it was always just the instructor had to make it available, but they've given us that capability, so we should have that ready for summer term. Now, when you first go into a brand new course, if you look over on the right-hand side, you're going to see several different items that are in dark that are available to students that we don't want them to be. Because again, we want to really push them to go through modules, because that really organizes the material and gives them a single point of entry to the course, that everybody goes in the same place. Now, how you organize what's in modules is completely up to you as an instructor. We want them to start in the modules area. So we need to go into settings to be able to change that menu, and then you go into navigation. Now, this is a very simple process, but all you want to do is drag and drop the menu items from up here which are the ones that have links on them that are available, to down here that will be hidden from students. So I can drag and drop below. And I'm going to leave modules because we're going to use that. We're not the syllabus thing that they have is neat, but really way too much stuff for us. If you decide you want to use that at some point, feel free to, but it requires a lot of work on the part of the instructor. You cannot simply upload your paper syllabus. You have to translate that into assignments on there and all kinds of other different bits and pieces, and it's not something that I would encourage you to do, especially not the first couple of times you use Canvas. We leave people and grades, we move discussions and assignments, so all we have is home, announcements, grades, people, and modules. And then navigation. Yes, ma'am.
If we want to use discussion, are we going to embed them in modules?
That's correct.
Okay.
You as an instructor, if you want to see the listing of all the discussions, can go over to the discussions item because you'll still have it available. But we want to get those students to go through that modules so they know that's where I go for all my coursework. And that way we never run into, well, is my instructor using discussions or not? I don't see the discussions things on the left-hand side because they put it underneath assignments or what. It's all underneath modules. You just go to modules and that's where all your stuff is. That way students always have everything underneath the same link. Once you're done moving all those items around, you click Save, and now you'll notice on the left-hand side, I have the same as it looked in my other courses. Does that make sense? Good?
I'm not finding navigation.
Okay, you go to Settings.
I should be in a course.
In a course, correct. So you'll have your menu at the left.
Top right, I'm clicking settings.
It's at the bottom left.
Let me have that again.
Once you're in a course, at the bottom left is Settings. It's at the bottom of the menu.
Okay.
And then once you get into the settings area, that's where your student view is, etc. And then across the top, you've got navigation.
That's it.
Okay, very good. And then you can just simply drag and drop those down underneath where it says drag items here. That will allow those items to then be invisible to students. We doing okay, guys? Okay, let's take about a 5-minute break. And then we'll get started again. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the means of contact and communication within Canvas, how it communicates back and forth with email and Facebook and your phone and that kind of thing. We'll talk about some of the statistics and information that Canvas gathers, and we'll look very briefly at the assignments and quizzes.